You can think of Adam like thought and Eve like thinking, and Seth as the child of Adam and Eve, which represents the unification of the opposites that is thought that can think about itself. So that's interesting. So when I talk about a lot like, oh, my thinking mind was just going off and I couldn't rein it in because I was feeling overwhelmed, anxious, waking up, whatever this reason is. And then when I work out or get some sunlight, it's usually working out and getting sunlight or writing. So when your thinking mind is going off, your monkey brain, I call it, and other people have called it that too, is that it's just when you're mindlessly thinking thoughts. You're not aware of the thoughts that you're thinking. So you're thinking about what you're going to eat, what you're going to do later, past memories, future memories, and it's just randomly going off like a wave of just thoughts that you're not really aware that you're having. They're just going. But when you are aware of the thoughts, when you're thinking about, like when you sit down and you go in meditation, or you self-reflect and you start questioning those thoughts, like if it's a fear-based thought or a decision that you're unsure of making, you start thinking about it like, hey, I'm having this thought that, even food, let's say, I'm having this thought that I should eat burritos later. Is the burrito going to be the best? Is it the healthiest? It's like I'm having a thought, let's say, that I should have a bag of chips. But then if I actually think about it and just don't let my thinking mind control it and just act on that impulse, and say, hey, is that the healthiest for you? Is that going to really bring you joy and excitement? Is that going to make you feel good after? Is that going to your highest self and which wants to be healthy and clean and all these stuff? And you start questioning it. That's you observing the thoughts that you're having because you're questioning it now. You're aware of what you're thinking. And then there's another state, like there's like a few different states, I think it is, when your mind is observing. Like when you've worked out and you feel not completely exhausted. Sometimes it's exhausted, but sometimes it's just kind of like mellow, calm, is when you are having thoughts and it's like you can see those thoughts. You're aware of that, I'm thinking this right now, and you're deciding every single thought that's coming next in your mind. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just a different. It's like the difference between when your thinking mind is going off, it's just going off and you have no control over those thoughts coming into your mind. That's why they're called intrusive thoughts. But when you're actually aware of what thoughts are coming into your mind, then you're observing it and you're choosing what to think about. You're deciding that I want to think about this. I want to focus on this. I want to ponder on this. So there's a difference. And then also when you're in a writing state, like when I go into my writing, I have no idea what the next line is going to come out. It just comes out. But those are not me observing my thoughts. That's not my my observing mind, observing my thinking mind. No, that's like me going to almost like a meditative state, and I'm just letting whatever flows out of me flow. So it's like me tapping into my higher self, tapping into source to see what line wants to come out. Like there's lines that I haven't even thought of, words that I haven't even strung together in my life that just comes out onto the paper because that's the message that needs to be shared. That's why it's like you can't trust your thinking mind because your thinking mind is filled with fear, programming, all of these things. But when your observing mind observes those thoughts and analyzes where that thought is coming from and if there's some truth behind it or is it just based on fear and insecurity, that's when you can trust what answers come up because you're choosing to think about that thought, like what I said. I hope that makes sense. I've tried to give it the best explanation as possible, but let me just go on with what he's saying here. So, so kind of like what he said, it's unifying the thought and the thinking mind and bringing them together, observing the thought and questioning the thought. So that's why in the story, Seth is able to understand this hidden knowledge and why the descendants of Seth become enlightened because they represent a mind that was once divided. That's why the more time you spend in meditation, self-reflection, bringing the two minds together by questioning what you're thinking, working out where you're exhausted, is when you bring the mind together because your mind feels peace and calmness. And then you don't have all these thoughts going up. It's just peaceful and calm thoughts that are just naturally coming. And that's when you're more in the present moment. When your mind feels exhausted is when you can kind of be in the present moment because it feels peace. That's why when you're stressing about something and you're trying to make a decision about something, it keeps nagging away at you because it wants you to think it through. But it also wants you to work out and get sunlight, ground yourself in nature so that you make the best decisions because you're operating from a place of clarity because both minds are emerging as one. And you're not feeling that fear and anxiety and all of these things when your body and mind feel exhausted. You're able to think clearer. Becoming unified and gaining the ability to look within each other of the symbolic representation of Seth and carries such seeds for the ability to wake up from the false creator, the demigod, Sakla represents the ignorant and ego that claims authority over us. Just like how Sakla says he is the highest god, but he isn't. Same way, who says it is our real self when it is. Same way the ego says it's our real self when it isn't. Overcoming that means overcoming our own ignorance and fear, and realizing that we are so much more than just our ego. The true God of light that represents our higher self, our divine eternal self. Now the illuminator can come in many forms, but its essence is the same. It represents enlightenment, idea that sparks a revolution in our minds. Realize what we really are. What's the final message? The words they have kept of the God of the eons were not committed to this book are written down. This is huge because it means that the true knowledge was never written down. It was never put in books, so where is the true knowledge? For they will be high on a mountain upon a rock of truth. Therefore, they will be named of the words of imperishability and truth for those who know the eternal God and wisdom and knowledge, and teachings of angels forever. He knows all the things. So this knowledge on a high mountain means that it requires a higher level of consciousness to find it. That's why you can't find it in a book. It requires a higher level to be able to understand it. Upon a rock of truth means the knowledge is eternal, the firm foundation of all existence. It can't be found in any books because it's found inside of you. If you have the eyes to see a higher consciousness, you can look beyond literal words to see what it's really telling you. So the truth isn't found in the word itself. You have to look within to figure what those words mean to you. So certain books can help you out, but it's up to you to do the real work of looking, working, asking questions to yourself. There's an ancient aphorism that says, know thyself. I always love that saying. Socrates says it, know thyself. And you will know the universe and the gods. That's because the universe and the gods are all inside of you. They are you. The apocalypse of Adam is all about transmitting the knowledge, so it will be a spark to wake up people up, to get them to look within and transform us all into illuminators. The battle between ignorance and knowledge. So that was a lot to digest. And even though it wasn't a quote-unquote real story, there was a lot of information that we either perceived as real because of this book and other books that have said this and confused us, or there's actually facts behind this, and it's about reading between the lines, so finding the hidden meanings. Like what he said, that the God of this world represents illusion, fear, and ignorance. Like, there's all these hidden messages that we just have to look deeper and we can find it. Like, it's good to have a belief system and values, but you need to question those belief systems and values and really dig deep to why you have those belief systems and values. Is it just because your parents passed it on to you? Is it because society told you to be this way? Like, why do you believe certain things? Why do you see certain things as the truth? And a lot of the things that they give you, you have to question it because they're confusing information. They don't know the truth. They're confused. So it's like we have to look in, tap into our higher self, meditate, self-reflect to figure out what the truth is.